he says to them at the very beginning now, how much are you offering? And they said nothing. And he said, nothing? The child's dead. Does Miller have an expert? They said, he's a pretty weak expert, but yeah. He said, he's got an expert that might get to a jury and you're offering nothing? And the judge said, don't expect me to help you.
Oh! All right, everybody, welcome to another great episode of Cases Gone Wild with me, your host, John Marco, brought to you by Marco Law. We have a special show for you today. We actually have, today is the first and only time we have brought a guest back for a second show, because normally it's one and done here on Cases Gone Wild. We have so many wild cases we have to get to, but we just couldn't help ourselves. We brought back the OG.
Yes, whatever that means.
The original gangster, Shell Miller, is back again because he kept telling me I have so many great stories to tell. So, Shell, thanks for being on the show. If you're out there, you can watch us on our YouTube at our Marco Law YouTube channel, which is new and improved, or go to anywhere you can see or hear your podcasts, including marcolaw.com. Shell, thanks for being back on the show.
My pleasure, John. Always good to be with you.
Good to be here, man. What did you say? What's the word? It's better to
be seen than viewed.
Yeah,
right?
Better to be seen than viewed. I like that. So, Shell, we gave your introduction last time, but you are one of the most prominent and accomplished attorneys in the country. Certainly have been involved over the years in so many historic Michigan cases, so many historic Michigan milestones in the law. And you're the former president. If people want to hear about how amazing you are and all the things you've done, they should tune into the original Cases Gone Wild with you.
I don't even think we went into all that then, but yeah.
You fought in the Korean War, right?
I was in the Korean War, but I did not know. They sent me to Germany.
You were serving.
I joined the army at 18 and during the Korean War, and they sent me to Germany. I didn't shoot anybody and nobody shot me.
That's good.
But the best benefit of it was that when I got off the streets, because that's why I joined the army at 18, and I got the GI Bill, and it helped put me through law school.
And you've been practicing ever since? You're still practicing today?
Just 63 years.
Wow. And as you said this morning, I was the John Marco before there was a John Marco.
Right.
So tell us about we were chatting, as we often do, and there was this case that it's mind-blowing. I mean, this is truly a case gone wild.
It is. I looked at it when it was over, and I looked back at it, and I thought, all these little acorns, all these acorns developed into this big oak tree. Never would have put these little things together, and suddenly, boom, it all worked out. And you look back and you said, holy smoke, how did I get here? It was so fabulous, like it was preordained.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about tell us about the acorns. What type of case was it? What happened?
Okay, it starts off where I am at a fundraiser. I don't remember what it was. And somebody comes over to me. I can tell his name. I think he's gone. Ed Littlejohn. And he says to me, I need a favor. Can you get Coleman Young's, the mayor at that time, Coleman Young's niece into law school? And I said, why are you coming to me? You're the dean of Wayne Law School. What are you coming to me for?
And you're a lawyer at the time? You're a prominent lawyer at the time?
Yeah, of course. And you'll hear how. So I said, why can't you do it? And he said, we're a state school. We have to go right down the list on top. We go right down, and she would not qualify.
So they have, this is Wayne State Law School
Right.
here in Detroit. And Mayor Coleman Young was, I mean, he was a big, prominent mayor. I mean, they named the courthouse, the civil courthouse after him.
Yeah.
He was very seen as a powerful power broker.
Very powerful. Yeah, absolutely. And so, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what I can do, but okay. 15 minutes later, honest to God, it's the craziest thing because you have a name tag on.
Yeah, this is like a political fundraiser thing.
Yeah, some kind. I don't even remember
what.
And a guy comes up to me and he says, my name's Richard Seid. I'm the new dean of U of D Law School. And he said, I was looking for you. I said, why? He said, well, University of Michigan gets all these corporate executive lawyers. I want to turn U of D into a trial lawyer law school. And I was told I should start with you.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a big compliment, though. Yeah. You were like the trial lawyer guru.
Well, I was president of, I had the no fault and all those things.
But this guy's at University of Detroit Mercy, not Wayne State, so it's not the right school, right?
No, but he wants to turn U of D into a trial lawyer school. And he said, you're the one. So I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, I'd like you to teach trial practice. So I said, well, when I went to law school, we didn't have a course in trial practice. He said, yeah, but you've been trying 100 cases. You've got a great reputation, blah, blah, blah. And you're the one I was told to look into. So I said, well, I never even thought of that.
Have you met this guy before?
No, he hadn't even assumed the duties yet. It was in the summer or something. Anyway, all of a sudden, boom, something goes into my head. And I say, I don't care about getting paid, but how about if I ask you to put somebody into the law school, would you accept them on my word? Because I had just been talking about Coleman Young's niece. Otherwise, I never even would have done. That's how weird this story goes.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I can't promise you that, but I'll give it every consideration.
So that was good words to hear.
Right. So I said, you got a deal. Okay. So he said, what do you do? You're going to do this, blah, 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 when school starts. So now, as I said, I never had a course in trial practice. I tried a lot of cases. So I get a book and I figure out, maybe I'll pick up some tips for teaching. And one paragraph, one thing catches my eye that I had never thought of before. And that was the person who wrote that thing said, close all the escape avenues before you pin somebody down on their opinion.
So this is like a book on cross-examination or something in a
something
courtroom?
Preparing, so I'm going to tell him. And I said, I never thought of it like that. I usually, when I came to get somebody on their witness, I like to hit them with a hammer on the first question.
Me too. I always taught my guys, start with a bullet punch to the face.
Right.
Of an adverse witness.
Right. So this one was saying, but close the escape routes before you pin them down. And I thought back in my lifetime, and there were a couple times when I thought I had somebody want something, and at the end they had some escape route that I hadn't closed, and I probably could have closed it before. So I just kept it in my mind, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, skip a few years later.
Did you go and teach?
Yeah.
Did she get in?
No.
She didn't get in?
She didn't get in. I know something with the application. I never followed through.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was having a ball teaching. One of the things they had to do was they had to accommodate me because I said, I can't just walk out in the middle of a trial and say I'm going to school. And they said, well, most of the judges will let you out. But we did it at lunch hour was when I met because law students didn't care, like 12 to 2 o'clock.
So you go try a case, leave for lunch at the courthouse, go teach And then go back to the trial?
Yeah, and I used to tell him sometimes, I was having such a ball. Tomorrow, I've got a witness on the stand. I am going to kick this witness's ass, honest to God.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, how much energy? Weren't you tired?
no. Oh, it was so much fun. And all these people were just, and they'd show up in court sometimes.
Your students and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of them are judges. One went to the Court of Appeals, blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And so that was a great experience. Now, later on in life, I get a new client who comes in with this terrible, horrible tragedy story. He's a top executive in one of the automotive companies. He lives out here in Grosse Pointe. Very successful guy. And he didn't want his family or his kids to grow up in that, just in that atmosphere. So he joined a church in the city of Detroit, right over the city line.
Like a black church?
Yeah, a black church.
Is the guy white or black?
White,
Yeah.
top executive.
So like white rich guy in Grosse Pointe.
Wanted to get his family into the real world. Okay,
Yeah.
so that exposure.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah,
That's a cool.
well,
We need more of that nowadays. I'll
yes,
tell you
we
that.
do. So it turns out on one Easter Sunday, the kids from this church are in a church bus and they are going out to Grand Rapids. There's a maze that the people go
It was
through.
called the Maze Craze, I think.
Is that, well?
Yeah, I went when I was a kid. I grew up in Grand Rapids. It was this huge maze that they set up inside like a warehouse with like wood, walls and stuff.
I had never heard of it, and I still hadn't until this time, but I heard about it. Anyway, the church bus,
And now is the guy and his kids on this bus?
just the kids.
Oh, no. So the guy from Grosse Pointe's kids are there, the church kids?
Kid, his about 15-year-old son. And they get on the expressway, and before they get too far, the treads come off one of the tires. And the driver of the school bus, the church bus, who was just not a regular, but the father of one of the other students and not that experienced, panics and he pulls the bus off to the side and he hits a ditch and the bus turns over.
Oh, my gosh.
And this young man is the only one who gets killed. Some other people get injured. He's the only one who dies in this crash. And it turns out after that made big news, and a local lawyer who had been spending his career representing this tire company heard about it, and they talked about the tread and blah, blah, blah. And he went out to the scene right away, and he picked up off the road some of the tread and turned it into the police.
He read about it and then went and got the tread?
He heard about it right away.
Heard about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
Because that becomes an important part. How did the tread show up? He brought it to the police.
So
okay?
he went to the scene, this horrible scene later, finds the tread and gives it to the police.
Right. And because there are a lot of injuries and a lot of things, the tread is examined and somebody comes up, and a so-called expert comes up with the fact that the tread that they found didn't have any glue on it. And that's why it came off. Now, the tires, turns out, we'll go ahead, all had 43,000 miles on this thing, okay?
Each tire had 43,000?
Yeah, they were the original tires.
Now, is that I don't know, like, what's the lifespan of a tire?
Well, particularly here because, and Vordeer, he pointed out, which I almost dropped dead on, where he said, have any of you ever seen these kind of school buses or church buses? And do you ever think they're well kept up? And they're all raising their hand. No, they're not. And I said, oh, great. The tires are, okay. So, but you live with what you got. Anyway, so now we start a lawsuit. Oh, wait, I got to tell you how the client comes. So the client comes to me and he tells me of this story. And he says, I'm really not that interested. It's not the money. He said, if I get any money, I'm going to put up a garden in memory of my son. He said, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the tire company and their product people and sit down with the quality control people and tell them how important their job is. That's all I want to do, is just remind them that people's lives depend on them doing their jobs.
Wow.
So I went over and they said, go bag your ass. You can't do it.
The tire company said, go pound sand.
We're not doing it. Yeah.
Wow. How heartless.
We didn't do anything. Yeah. We didn't do anything wrong and go to hell. Okay.
What tire company was it? Do you remember?
I know, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So now we have a lawsuit. Well, right away, against both the church and the tire company. So the church people in their insurance company come in to talk to me, and they say, we want to get rid of you, and then everybody else will fall in line. So I said, look, I am not going to go back to the parents of this child and say their son's life is worth less than $1 million. I will not take a nickel less than $1 million. If you won't pay $1 million, we're going to trial.
When was this, too, by the way?
90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s. So they said, well, we don't have any real problem with that concept, but, we want the tire company to throw in. We'll get you the $1 million if you get the tire company. I said, well, they're not going to pay any money, at least at this stage. So, well, then I don't know how we can do it because that's not fair. We'll give you the $1 million, then you get some money from the tire company. Now, So I came back 2 days later. I thought about it, and I came up with a concept. I said, here's my deal. Settle this case for $400,000. Lend my client $400,000, payable only out of proceeds we get from the tire company, and pay me $200,000 for continuing on with that lawsuit. And they said, we'll do it. Well, they checked with their lawyer. Can we trust them to go forward? All this? Okay. So now my clients end up with the proceeds as if it were $1 million settlement. I get the fee as if it were, and I get a shot at the tire people. And I promised them I would try the case, but I could use other people in bringing it up, the young. So time goes by a little bit, and the expert for the tire company's deposition is scheduled. And I have a lawyer in my office who was doing a younger lawyer who was doing some product stuff. So I assigned it to him. My theory had always been when it came to things like that I let somebody else take the witness's dep. One, I might learn something from things that they come up with, but two, even if I don't, and they go a different way, maybe the witness won't be prepared for me. They'll be prepared for the other lawyer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like to do that too.
Yeah.
I think it can be helpful. Now, it's not helpful in the fact that if you're there taking the deposition, the witness and you know how they're going to be, but they know you too.
Right.
So that's the other, that's the bad thing. So I agree with you. I think it can be powerful when they meet you for the first time in a courtroom in front of a jury. You know what I mean?
And that's the ego part, but also I might learn something from them. They might have a totally different approach.
They might do a little different tactic, do a little different way.
So that's the way it's going to proceed. 2 days before the deposition, he leaves the firm.
Who?
The young lawyer.
What? Did he tell you he was going to do that?
We had to split up. Some of the partners left, and then they induced him to go with them.
Yeah, okay.
And so now, 2 days before the guy, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm not going to palm it off on somebody. So I look at it myself, and I read the report that the guy has. I say,
whose deposition is it?
their expert, one of their experts.
For the tire company.
For the tire company. So I'm now about to take it, and I think about what I learned about maybe I should close all the avenues of escape, right?
How many years after that was it? This is when you came back on you that you're like, I'm going to close all the avenues?
Yeah, just because
Years
I
later.
had time to, I had time to think about how am I going to ask this guy, and I look at it and I see that his report said he, at the very beginning, he examined all 4 tires on the bus.
So the expert looked at the bus,
Tires, all
the
4,
tires
including the one that
exploded or
exploded. Yeah, lost
whatever,
the
came
tread.
apart.
So instead of talking about the one that counted, I asked him if he examined the other 3 tires. Yes. Did you find anything wrong with them? No, they were fine. And then I hit him with a question, which will come back. One more question to make sure that I close that avenue. Okay, not just were they fine. I hit him with one question, which comes back to make sure he's not going to escape. All right? And then we go through the tire, and he talks about it. It was underinflated. You could see the burn marks on the side of the tire, and then it was overinflated, and it was this, and it was that, and blah, 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 and blah, blah,
So he
blah.
was saying it was all the church's fault.
Absolutely.
They didn't maintain this tire.
Right.
Okay.
In the meantime, now the settlement went through with the church insurance company. So the tire company not immediately, but very soon after, take the case to federal court because now there's diversity.
Yeah, so they removed the case and made you go to federal court.
And now...
That's never fun.
Right. Not only is it never fun, it starts all the way back at the beginning.
Oh, no.
Whatever time we had spent is now gone, and now we're a year and a half later, we're coming up for trial.
Wow. So you basically had to start over.
Yeah. And of course, who knew how many other things had gone through my mind in the meantime. And when I went there, it turns out I only took a separate part of the file only involving the tire. I left the church part, whatever, till that settlement. I didn't bring that along. And we get assigned to trial, and the judge is a new federal judge. I won't even go into his name. It was not good, but and he says to them at the very beginning now, he said, how much are you offering? And they said nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. And he said, nothing? The child's dead. Does Miller have an expert? They said, he's a pretty weak expert, but yeah. He said, he's got an expert that might get to a jury, and you're offering nothing? Yeah, we're offering nothing. And the judge said, don't expect me to help you.
Oh!
He had been, guess what side he had been in his career. Okay. So, all right. So now we're going into the trial, and I put in my proofs, and they put in this expert on the afternoon of the second day, and he rips us. Oh my God.
The expert that you had deposed previously. So he goes to trial and is just shitting all over your case.
And just what he had done on the one tire, now he did it on 4 tires.
Saying all the tires are messed up.
All the tires were messed up. And if that one the tread hadn't come off on that one, it would have come off if they'd gone further in the road. They were so badly maintained. It was a sin, blah, blah, they shouldn't. And he rips. And he's very good.
So what are you thinking? Oh, no.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I meet with the clients, after what's going on. Never forget it. And I say, I think we're going to lose. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to the office and look at the file, and we'll think about this and see if I can come up for something for the morning. And I go back to the office and I pick up the other part of the file, and there's his deposition. And I read the first 3 pages, and I am smiling from you can't imagine. I was so happy. Oh my God. And now I must have spent an hour thinking of how was I going to ask the one question that I had to ask, okay? And I was planning for it. So now comes the next morning, and I walk in. Certain things you just never forget in your life. And I told them, they look at me and I said, sit down and enjoy the show. Just like that. I was so cocky. Oh my God. So I started off with him.
With the experts. So the experts back on the stand.
Cross-examination, first time. Okay. So I started off making sure there's no escape routes. Do you remember you gave your sworn testimony a year and a half, 2 years ago about this case? Yes. Have you done any work on any of the tires in this incident since then? No. At that time, you remember, you wrote a report, and then I questioned you, and you answered questions under oath. Do you remember that? Well, yeah, sort of. I said, was there any answers that you gave then that weren't the truth? No, I told the truth. Okay. And you did no further work on any of this case. Right. Well, and here comes a shocker. Oh, you can't tell how lucky you are. Well, I didn't work anymore on the case, but here's what happened. He said, just a couple months ago, the company called me and invited my wife and me to visit them in New York. They said they were impressed with my work, and they had some other cases they wanted me to look at, and so I met with them.
What?
I said, but had any of them seen the tires or anything? No, they were just interested, and maybe they'd like to have me use on other cases. I said, oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this. Do you hate the members of your family? What do you think happened when I said that?
Objection.
Oh, objection. How about through the roof? What kind of question is that? Blah, blah, blah. All right. And now the jury, remember this was in the morning, suddenly after 2 minutes, 3 minutes of preliminary, the jury is looking, the judge says, what was that about, Mr. Miller? I said, Your Honor, I promise you in 4 questions, I will tie it up. He said, this I got to see. Those are his words, this I got to see. I said, you remember in your deposition, I asked you if you had examined the other 3 tires? Well, wait, instead of my going through it, why don't you read them? Here's your copy. And now he reads it to the jury. Did you examine the other 3 tires? Is that correct? Yes. Did you find anything wrong? He's reading this. Did you find anything wrong with these tires? No, they were fine. Would it be fair to say that you would have no problem if members of your family rode in a vehicle with these tires? Not any problem at all. I said, and the only thing that happened between now, when you gave that testimony and when you testified yesterday about those tires, was you met from the executives of the tire company. Is that correct? And he just looks. He doesn't even answer. I'm waiting. I'll assume your answer is yes. Okay. And now, remember, it had nothing to do with the tire that we were dealing with, but his credibility had just, and I,
because he told the jury that all the other tires were messed up.
All the other tires.
I like that question. Do you hate your family?
No. Do you? Yeah. I was going to, it was between two questions. The real hard question was, why do you hate your family? And I decided that was too strong. I better back it off just a little bit. But I knew I'd get that other lawyer jumping up, and the judge and the jury, everybody.
Yeah.
And then in closing, I said, I wasn't in New York when he met with them, but I can assume here's what happened. They came to him and said, you know, if you say that you examined all 4 tires and they were all the same 43 mile and only one of them, the tread came off, somebody might think that tire was bad in the manufacturer. But if all the tires were bad, we know that it was poor maintenance.
Yeah.
I said, that's what I think happened. Jury came back for $5 million.
Oh, wow.
$5 million.
All because of that. I mean, but that could have went the other way if you didn't have that
I had
testimony.
no offer. What was I going to do? Right. I'm saying
Right.
The acorn of how did I come to that question? How did I do that? All from something that had nothing to do, and one day later it grew into this whole thing. Ironically, I know the exact date that the jury came back. My birthday, April 19th, day you got married, 1997. The jurors asked for me. The judge went back to talk to the jurors, and the jurors asked me to go back there. And because 2 of them were complaining it was only $5 million, they wanted to know if I was satisfied with $5 million.
Yeah.
And then somebody ran into the back and said, get out of the courthouse. Oklahoma City courthouse was bombed.
Oh, my God.
So everybody scooted out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Then there's one more part to the story that turns out. It turns out, now they're talking, well, we're not going to pay. We're going to appeal. We're going to do this. I said, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. If I enter the judgment, the minute I enter the judgment on that jury verdict, it's res judicata. That tire was bad in the manufacturer. And all the other people who were hurt and settled with the church and didn't sue you.
All the other people on the church bus?
Because they're all minors.
Oh, wow.
Statute of limitations hasn't run on them. And they're all coming after you because 2 of them have already called me and asked me to take their cases over. I said, but if you pay me and then give me $10,000 as a consultant, I won't take any of their cases because my first duty is to my client. So they offered me $1,000, not $10,000.
Okay.
And they did it. They paid in full, 100%, gave me $1,000, and I couldn't take any of the other cases. And my clients got satisfied. And I assume somewhere, either in Detroit or out here, there's a garden for this in memory of their son.
Wow. That's crazy. So did the other kids sue too with different lawyers? Or?
A couple of them tried, but they wanted me to help them. So I told them I can't,
Yeah.
I wanted to, but.
So why do you think that they didn't have their expert read his own testimony that he had given? How stupid is that?
It was a long time earlier, and they actually had 2 other experts that were equally bad, but that was the key.
That's a big mistake.
Yeah.
That was a big mistake.
Of course it was.
Do you think that changed the whole case?
Of course it was. I didn't have anything else. All I had was a guy who said there was he didn't even have all that. He said there was no glue on the inside.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's crazy. So what about some other cases? I know that I heard that you did some cases with Jeffrey Feiger.
Yes. When Jeffrey started out, he brought me in on a bunch of cases with him. He turned out to be damn good during his lifetime.
So tell me about some of those cases. What was it like trying a case with them? Because I tried cases with them too. And so, it was always, I was more at a stage though where I was mostly watching as opposed to contributing, if you know what I mean. carrying a briefcase in the hallway, getting lunch and food, the important things.
Right. One I remember vividly. Well, I remember a few of them, but one I remember vividly is a child got a football helmet, Lions football helmet for Christmas, and was crossing a street with the helmet on and got hit by a car and killed. And he couldn't see because of the helmet. And so the big defense was, kid's fault, blah, 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 blah.
So the car driver or the truck driver, whatever it was, blamed the kid?
Right.
Okay.
Well, because he couldn't see, and so therefore he didn't make proper observation. What I'll never forget about this is the insurance company brought in their top defense lawyer from Chicago.
To fight you and Jeff?
Yes.
Who was it?
I don't remember his name. Okay.
Yeah.
He came in, and we're in chambers, and we're talking, judge, his settlement and blah, 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 and the guy's making a very minor offer. And Jeffrey stands up. Certain scenes you can't burn them out of your mind. And Jeffrey stands up and says, "Do you know who I am?"
What? This was in judge's chambers.
Yeah. I just like, oh my God, do you know who I am?
And what were you doing when you?
I'm just sitting there laughing. Anyway, so now the trial goes on. And
where was the trial?
Where? In Wayne County.
Wayne
Circuit.
County, yeah.
Okay. And there was some witness that Jeffrey was sure he normally did a great job. I'm not knocking him. This was just one that he had some issue that he had with one of the witnesses, and he kept trying to beat him, and he wasn't winning. And he got very frustrated, and he sat down, and the last witness was their expert for cross-examination, and Jeffrey was going to take him, and he gave it to me.
Because he was pissed.
Yes. In fact, during another one, there were two witnesses. So I was making big headroads on one. He tugs the ego, right? He tugs at my jacket. You asked enough questions. You can sit down now. He just couldn't stand it.
He couldn't stand it.
He couldn't stand it. So the last witness, now they've got this guy, and it's all the kid's fault and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out it's an intersection where the kid was in a crosswalk on the second. So the car was coming from, let's say, the right, and the kid had crossed the street in that part of the intersection. Mm-hmm. Okay, he had to cross the street. So I read him the city ordinance on cars have to yield the right of way to pedestrians in the intersection. And I do it very slowly. And I said, you remember all this in there? Said, the child is here, the car's coming from there? Yes. I said, the statute says that a car should yield the right of way to pedestrians lawfully in the intersection. What? I say, here's the statute or ordinance. And now let me ask you something. Was the child in the intersection? Was he lawfully in the intersection? Yeah. Did your driver yield the right of way to him? You the guy just died right there.
Those are the best.
The jury came back for a big hunk of money. And the one thing I remember is that Chicago lawyer said, "I'm never coming back to Michigan again."
He said that?
I swear.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But those are the best when you ask the questions like that. Like I had that ambulance case I've talked about before in Macomb County where the driver, didn't look to clear the intersection with his lights and sirens on, and he drove through the intersection. He had an ambulance, so they're allowed to drive through red lights, but they have to look and slow down and stop and make sure it's clear. He said he didn't need to do that because he could just see through his peripheral vision that it was clear, right? And he couldn't, but he had on these big wraparound Oakley glasses, And something really bothered me about these glasses. I'm like, how can you see? Like, you can't see out your side anyways, because he drove through the intersection and didn't turn his head, but he said he cleared. And so it really bothered me. So I went and I got the sunglasses, and, there's that insert inside the box, and it said, do not wear while driving.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, it said, do not wear while driving, not for road use. So I kind of saved it like you did. There's nothing better than, I could have said it before and I could have brought it up So I just said, all right, I want you to read this right here. And I let it fall out. It fell out of the thing. And the jury's looking like, what's this thing? And I pull out this box of Oakleys. I pull out the sunglasses. I pull out the pamphlet. I'm like, did you ever read the pamphlet that was in the box? He goes, no, I don't read that stuff. I'm like, well, let's take a look at it. What does it say right here? Do not wear while driving. What were you doing when you hit my client? Driving. And the jury, that was over. Those moments can be so powerful. And then it's over. There's no coming back from that. You know what I mean?
I will. The best question I think I ever asked, and the one I just talked about, was the one on my first podcast, okay? And I have to remind you about it, and those who haven't heard it. It involved a truck driver, double tandem truck driver, coming out of a pit where the American aggregates, where they were putting rocks in it, and then he had to get to the main road and turn up the road because it was at the bottom of a hill to go up the hill. And this big, heavy truck, he was in fourth gear going 6 miles an hour, and he didn't stop, and they didn't stop because it was so hard to stop and then get it going. Because imagine shifting 4 times and you're only going 6 miles an hour, and he couldn't get it up the hill. So they made a habit of doing it. I won't go through the whole thing, but he did that. And when he pulled out, he said he looked up the hill and didn't see us. So he didn't stop, and he blocked it. And this pickup truck where my 2 young clients were in with their neighbor kid. They all stayed late to play basketball, and the kid's father picked them up, and they were coming down that hill, and they blocked the road, and they crashed into the double tandem, and they got killed. And as I said, I had the distance. State police did a fabulous job, obviously. 4 people got killed, and they had all the dimensions. And where he testified or gave the police that he looked before he knew, and he knew it was clear, he not knowing miles per hour, which is pretty important when you try auto cases, he would have had our vehicle coming down the hill 120 miles an hour.
Well, that didn't happen, right?
So, he looked stupid, so I had him on that. All right. So we finish on a Thursday, Friday's motion day. I'm ready to come in Monday to do closing argument. And they put their client on. I had put him on as part of my case because I didn't have any eyewitnesses. I had to impeach him on his testimony, what he was doing. So they went back at the scene and had him go back over it and come back. And now he came back and he said, I was in this position. I went and recreated it. He would only have been going 60 miles an hour, and it would have happened, blah, blah, blah.
Because they knew it was impossible that he was at 120.
Right. So they knew that he didn't look, and it was bullshit. Okay, so here we are now. I got one question basically to ask the guy. And real quick in my mind, looking back, I knew that they had prompted him to say, how come you changed your testimony, which is even, do you have it better? And he would have said, I'm sure they had I was so nervous because of that I didn't have it, but when, in the police, but when I went back, I could do it, blah, 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 and sympathetic, blah, blah, blah. I had to hit him with one question. One question. The question is, the last time you came to that intersection, you didn't stop. You pulled out and 4 people got killed. Did you stop at this time? I assumed he was going to say yes. And I was going to say, and nobody got killed, did they? And sat down. He said, no.
What?
That's 2 jurors jumped up. 2 jurors jumped up out of their seats. What?
Why did he say no?
He said, do you know how hard it is to get up that road? Do you know what we have to do that? They should have special rules. So I said, you shouldn't have to stop, because they had stop signs to put them up, because these guys had been running it all the time. The American Aggregates had put 2 stop signs up there to make sure they stopped. We shouldn't have to obey those things. I said, well, how about red lights? Well, some of those too.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
So it all fell apart.
All fell apart. At that time, I got the highest verdict on death of kids that anybody had.
Wow, that's crazy. You just never know what's going to happen. Because you had in your mind, I'm sure, that he was going to say, well, yeah, of course I stopped. And then
I told you what I was going to say, and nobody died. That's a pretty. I was real happy with that one either.
But you were like, what?
Once in a while, you get a question that you don't care what the answer is.
That's right.
Right? You just have to be ready for either answer.
Now, tell me about some other crazy case. Somebody told me you had a case where somebody got sucked into an elevator.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you remember that case?
Oh, do I remember it? Oh, the most horrible facts I ever heard in my whole life.
Well, how come you haven't told us about it?
Oh, Jesus. Then don't want to eat lunch when you're hearing this story, or dinner, I guarantee you. A woman goes to see her doctor. She isn't feeling well.
Okay.
She's middle-aged. Doctor says, well, I think this requires some looking after. I'm going to put you in the hospital, and we're going to examine and look things over. So come tomorrow to the hospital, and we'll put you in. Next day, I'll start running some tests. Next day, she shows up with her family. She's in the lobby, and they put her on a gurney, and they're taking her up to her room, and her family's behind her.
This is at the hospital.
At the hospital. Meanwhile, earlier in that day, the elevator system had broken down, and Otis Elevator comes in to fix the elevator, and he's up on the roof. And he does what he's going to do, and now he's testing it, and he starts the elevator to go up as she's halfway in and halfway out of the elevator.
They didn't block off the elevators or anything?
Right.
So half of her gurney, so this old lady's laying on the gurney?
Not an old lady, middle-aged.
Middle-aged lady is laying on the gurney, and the gurney's halfway in the elevator?
And it goes up.
And it goes up?
And it goes up. And unbelievable as this is, because the space is almost none, she goes up with it. And it comes back down, and her skin is gone. And she's still alive, screaming for about 5 minutes.
You got to be kidding me.
And the family is right there.
So the elevator sucked her up, and then where did she go when it went up? She was in the space?
In the space. She came back.
In the tiny space between the door and the elevator?
Yeah.
And so it just filleted her body?
Yeah.
In front of her family. And then it came back and the door opened and she falls out?
Yeah, screaming. And then died.
That is one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And this is in front of her family? Are they watching this and screaming and stuff?
Of course. You get nightmares when you think of that happening, right? Could you picture anything like that?
What an idiot, that elevator company. And why didn't the hospital put cones or something?
Yeah, now you tell them. Yeah, I know.
So what happened?
It's settled.
Yeah, I bet that case settled. Wow. That would have been a, righteous case to try before a jury, though.
I'll tell you what happened. I mock tried it. Jurors came back at $50 million.
Wow.
We had a very conservative appellate court at the time. I said, they'll never let it stick. They'll never let it stick.
Really?
So I settled it for a very substantial secret amount.
But not 50.
But not 50.
Dude, that's a case that's like just imaginable. Like,
that's why I said, can you imagine thinking about it? Was
it against the hospital and the elevator company too?
Yeah. It's their property, their thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had one elevator case. Trying to think about
I can just tell you one number because this isn't secret. They were kind of shocked when I turned down $15 million.
Wow.
This was more than 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I had an elevator case at Wayne County where the in the jail over there, like, in order to get between floors, you have to take the elevator, right? And a lot of these times, there's lots of people on the elevator. It's not like one at a time. It's a jail, right? So, like, let's say that, like, the people in jail need to go use the recreational yard or whatever. They have to all go on the elevator. So the corrections officer, the deputy, Wayne County deputy, would put the women in the elevator and then go up to the rec roof or whatever. But you're only supposed to have 20 people maximum on the elevator. And it says that right on the elevator. It says, warning, max load,
right.
Do not exceed this. But the deputy, if there's like 35 people or 30 people, didn't want to have to go all the way up, come all the way back down, load it up again with the second group, go all the way up. So what they would do is they just ignored it and they just stuffed this elevator. At the Wayne County Jail, it was a nasty jail too.
Plus, but the other reason is because if he did that, he'd leave half of them unattended up at the top.
Unattended, yeah. And they were understaffed, big time.
Yeah, I know that problem.
They didn't have enough people, so their reality was they would just ignore it. So, anyways, they put like 30 women on this elevator. The cable snaps. The safety cable snaps. It goes from the top floor and crashes into the basement. And it's hot and dark and there's smoke and these women are crying and screaming. And so we sued the jail and the trial court. It's so crazy. I mean, I thought this was the easiest case. The trial court said that they had immunity. And so they kicked the case out of court. Isn't that horrible? So immunity's out of control.
Oh, you lost it already? I mean, it's been lost already, not winning on appeal?
Well, then we went up to the Court of Appeals recently. We got screwed there too. They said immunity. So now we're at the Michigan Supreme Court asking them to take it. I don't know if they will or not. It's so hard on immunity. I mean, it's crazy. Like, there was a warning. We got pictures of it. It says, do not overstuff. Some of the women's backs are all messed up and they're traumatized from this, but it's horrible,
You remind me, I had an elevator case once.
Other than that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this one was, guy gets in an elevator and the ceiling drops on his head.
What?
Yeah. And so.
Was it hard or was it just foam or what?
but I even remember the guy's name, but I won't say it. And so we file a lawsuit, and it turns out that it had been repaired shortly before this. They had worked on the elevator. And so they said that's who did it, blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to get it. And the guy who worked on it was in the reserves and was called up to active duty. And so the case is put on stay for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
2 years. We don't get any hearing. And they've got, it couldn't have been blah, blah, blah. They couldn't have happened. And he comes back. I'll never forget this. And he gets on the witness stand. And he talks about when we make repairs, we get up on the top of whatever he said. He said something like, and the jury is just captivated by how elevators work. You can imagine, oh, is that how they work? And because it is. And they're looking at this guy, and he goes through this whole thing, and he gets done. And the jury just, oh my God. I have a question. I said, did anything you say have anything to do with how my guy got hurt? No. I said, because that couldn't have happened what you say, could it? No, it couldn't. It couldn't have happened. 2 years we waited for the guy.
2 years.
2 years. No, we did it different that day.
Yeah. Did you win the case? Yeah.
But I mean, I'll never forget that one question, same kind of question. One question, did that have anything to do with? I'm sitting there listening. I'm waiting to see what he's going to say.
We had another elevator. Man, there is a lot of elevator cases. There's an elevator case we had where this dude was at a self-storage. And, some of these self-storages have multiple levels. Do you know a self-storage?
Yeah,
And so, you go to the self-storage and nobody's there most of the time, right? You have a key code to get in. Part of the business of self-storage, where they don't have to have employees, right? You just go and you let yourself in and you let yourself out. You have a key code. They have cameras. Well, they had to take an elevator to get up to the second story of the self-storage, and on the way up, the elevator breaks down. And the guy, this doesn't have a cell phone with him, and
elevators have to have a telephone in them.
Well, the telephone was broken.
Oh.
So he hits the telephone button, and that's broken, and nobody answers. So this dude is stuck in an elevator for like 3 days.
Oh, geez.
He's peeing in the corner, defecating in the corner, and it's hot, and there's no air, and because it's a self-storage elevator, and he's stuck in this freaking elevator for 3 days. And finally, like the maintenance man, whatever, who gets in on Monday or whatever, is looking around, and they find this dude trapped in a feces and urine filled elevator. How would you like to stay in that for the weekend? That's no Club Med.
No, I wouldn't have liked that, but I sure would have liked to see the check they paid him.
Shal, it was great having you on the show. You're an OG.
And you're a young G.
Okay, I like it. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. This has been another great episode of Cases Gone Wild with our special guest, OG Shal Miller. If you or someone needs help for any of these issues, you get stuck in an elevator, have anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. MarcoLaw.com or dial 313 all sevens. 313-777-7777. We'll see you in another 2 weeks on another Cases Gone Wild.